The Knit and Natter Club by Gillian Grinham. Cooling teapots. Stegodocus. The little boy looked up at Archie. No, Ben, it's Stegosaurus, Archie replied patiently. Try and say it again. Stegosaurus. He was bored. He'd been there an hour, left to amuse the 3-year-old, while Grandma stayed in the kitchen with Kate, Ben's mother. Fate business, she called it. Grandad had said, "Fate worse than death, my boy," and disappeared into the veggie plot as they went out. "Oh, okay, Archie. I'm just off to check with Robin the butcher. We ran out of burgers last year. Can't let that happen again." "You're doing a fine job entertaining young Ben. Won't be a moment." And Grandma disappeared. Archie sighed. The last he wanted was to be stuck playing stupid dinosaurs again. Ben reached down into his toy box and pulled out another plastic monster. "Now then, men, you've bothered Archie enough. Come into the kitchen and help me make some raspberry buns. If you're very good, you can lick the bowl." And Kate started gathering up the model dinosaurs while Ben ran into the kitchen. "Pity Dave's not here. He'd tell you all about the real dinosaur, one which was found on the West Runton cliffs. Dave fancies himself as an amateur archaeologist." Archie perked up. Now that was really interesting. A few moments later, he was looking through the box of photos Kate had lifted off the bookcase. The bones looked massive. Archie read on the back, Mammutos trogontheriae. It must be mammoth of some sort. He wished he'd been there when it was discovered. The door slammed. Pity. He'd wanted a bit longer to study the photos. Then in walked Dave with a mug of tea. "Back to check on some orders for the cafe. Left Tom in charge. Ben's covered in bun mixture, so I've come in here for some peace and quiet. Hey, there's my mammoth pictures. Now, that was quite something, I can tell you." "Was it you who actually found the bones? How did you know what they were, what size they were, and—" "Steady on," Dave laughed. "Let's start at the beginning." He described the storms that had attacked the coast that autumn. The West Runton cliffs were prone to erosion, and several tons of earth had collapsed onto the beach. It had been a retired couple of amateur fossil hunters who'd made the first find. Then the local archaeologist gathered a team together, and painstakingly they went through the fallen soil. "And were you part of that group?" "Absolutely. Couldn't miss out on a chance like that. We did find some mammoth bones, but nothing like the pelvic bone. It was huge. Of course, the mammoth would have been 4 meters at the shoulder." "Wow! I wonder how it died." "Well, that I do know. Norwich Museum specialists analysed all the bones. Took ages, as you can imagine. But about a year later, they held a meeting here in the village hall and told us what the analysis had revealed." Dave paused as he flicked through the photos. "Yes," said Archie impatiently. "What did they say?" Dave laughed. "Sorry, got distracted. These photos take me back. Well, apparently it was a young mammoth, but its knee was deformed. Probably why it got killed. There were teeth marks from a hyena on one of its bones. Ugh, horrible. Dangerous times, especially for an injured young mammoth." Kate came in with a plate of warm buns. "Been telling Archie all about the day West Runton became famous? Even the press came to hear what the museum experts had to say." "Ah, yes. Now I come to think of it, your grandma had an important part to play, but I don't think she realised it." Intrigued, Archie listened carefully. Later that evening, back at the bungalow, Grandma picked up the Gansey she was knitting for Archie. "What? No knit and natter tonight?" said Grandad, as he folded his newspaper, ready to continue with the crossword. "Oh dear, I've forgotten." Grandma peered into a knitting bag. "I wonder what I can find." "Don't worry, I've got one, and it's all to do with the mammoth," said Archie. His grandparents looked at him in surprise. "You remember that meeting in the village hall? The one where the experts from the Norwich Museum spoke about the mammoth?" Yes, everyone was there. But what's that got to do with knitting?" "Shh," Grandad said, putting up his hand. "Let Archie speak. It's his story." Archie smiled and continued. There were so many people. The ladies in the kitchen were kept very busy with teas. "And cakes. I took 3 sponges down, I remember. Oops, sorry. Carry on, Archie." Grandma put her finger to her lips. "Well, what you didn't know was that the urn had broken down, so Kate and her friends had brought along their teapots. Trouble was, they needed teacosies to keep the pots warm. So Kate had an idea, and this is where you came in." And Archie looked into a knitting bag and fished out a piece of yellow wool. "Remember those yellow bobble hats you knitted for the brownies? Well, Kate undid the seams, popped them onto the teapots, and they worked perfectly. No cold tea." Grandad chuckled. "That clever girl sewed up the seams afterwards, and they were as good as the day you knitted them." Grandma looked amazed. "I never knew that. Why didn't you tell me?" "Sworn to secrecy, my dear. They thought you'd be upset." "Actually, Grandma, surely that means you had an important part to play in the story of the West Runton Mammoth." Grandma looked pleased with herself. Yes, I suppose I did." And behind the crossword, Grandad winked approvingly at Archie.